After almost 2 decades together, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's love story officially hit the end of the road, and the way it all fell apart seriously shocked fans. From the outside, they looked rock solid, red carpet smiles, emotional shout-outs, 2 megastars who seemed to beat the brutal odds of Hollywood fame. But when Nicole finally stepped back into the spotlight after filing for divorce, one thing was obvious: the fairy tale was done, and the real story was way more complicated than anyone thought. What came next wasn't silence, it was chaos. Keith poured his heart out on stage with raw, no-filter performances that felt like pain spilling straight into the mic, while Nicole answered in her own way, standing tall and letting her moves speak louder than words. This wasn't just a breakup, it was a full-on collision of love, fame, sacrifice, and private struggles no red carpet smile could ever hide. If stories like this pull you in, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. Because to really get how it all ended, we've got to rewind to where it all began. Nicole's early life and Hollywood rise. Long before Nicole Kidman became one of the most famous actresses on the planet, she was just a quiet, shy kid trying to figure herself out. Born in Honolulu in 1967, while her Australian parents were living overseas, Nicole grew up surrounded by contrasts. Her father, a psychologist and biochemist, brought logic and discipline into the home, while her mother, a nurse and educator, pushed creativity and compassion. When the family eventually moved back to Sydney, Nicole's personality was already forming, but not exactly screaming future superstar. She was painfully shy. Teachers later said that when she was called on in class, she'd blush so hard she'd basically freeze. Public speaking. Total nightmare. But where confidence was missing, imagination stepped in. She escaped into ballet, then drama classes, and finally community theater, where she realized she could finally express feelings she couldn't say out loud. Acting became her safe space. On stage, she didn't have to be herself. She could be anyone. By her teen years, her talent was impossible to ignore. Australia's film and TV scene was heating up, and Nicole grabbed every chance she got. Commercials, TV movies, and then, at just 16, her breakout role in the cult hit BMX Bandits. That role, mixed with her striking height, pale skin, and intense eyes, put Hollywood on notice. Soon enough, America came calling, and Nicole was thrown into a world she'd only imagined. But success didn't erase her struggles. The girl who once feared classrooms was suddenly walking the biggest stages on earth, juggling ambition with deep vulnerability. And that vulnerability shaped everything, not just her career moves, but her love life too. Because while the world saw a rising star with endless potential, Nicole was still searching for love, for family, for somewhere she truly belonged. That search would pull her into a relationship that brought fame, heartbreak, and emotional scars she carried for decades. And before Keith Urban ever entered the picture, another man had already changed her life forever. Nicole and Tom Cruise marriage. By the late 1980s, Nicole Kidman's career was blowing up fast. Hollywood was paying attention, and during that rise, she crossed paths with one of the biggest stars alive, Tom Cruise. Sparks flew instantly, and in 1990, Nicole and Tom tied the knot, becoming Hollywood's golden couple. The tabloids were obsessed. Young, gorgeous, powerful, they looked unstoppable. For Nicole, who had grown up shy and unsure of herself, being married to one of Hollywood's biggest box office kings felt unreal, like stepping straight into a dream. But behind the glossy images was a much messier reality. Tom was deeply committed to Scientology, a controversial belief system that quickly became a massive force in their marriage. Nicole rarely spoke openly about it, but over time, reports suggested the pressure and control tied to that world put serious strain on their relationship. The real heartbreak hit after their split in 2001. The couple had adopted 2 children, Isabella and Connor, and after the divorce, the kids primarily lived with Tom. Over the years, it became clear that Nicole experienced distance from them, a pain she almost never talked about publicly, but one that clearly cut deep. For someone who desperately wanted family and stability, this loss was crushing. The end of her marriage to Tom wasn't just a breakup, it was trauma. Nicole kept it classy in public, never spilling too much, but the damage was real. Those years reshaped how she viewed love, family, and survival. So when Keith Urban later entered her life, Nicole was determined to rebuild the home and family she felt had been ripped away. That past pain explains why her bond with Keith felt so intense, and why she held onto it with everything she had. Keith Urban's early life and struggles. Keith Lionel Urban's path looked nothing like Nicole's. Born in Whangarei, New Zealand, in 1967, he moved with his family to Queensland, Australia, when he was young. His dad, Bob, ran a convenience store but was obsessed with country music, and that love rubbed off hard. By 6, Keith was already playing guitar, and soon he was performing anywhere he could. Country music wasn't exactly cool in Australia, but for Keith, it became his whole identity. Home life wasn't always easy either. Financial stress and family tension gave him an early sense of restlessness. Music became his escape, and his only plan. By his teens, he was grinding non-stop, playing bars, entering talent shows, and shaping himself into the quiet, intense outsider with serious skills. He dropped out of school and went all in. No safety net. Eventually, the gamble paid off. After years of hustling, his self-titled American debut album in 1999 launched him as one of country music's hottest new names. Messy hair, killer guitar skills, emotional songs, fans were hooked. But fame brought dark stuff with it. Keith had already started experimenting with alcohol and substances, and the more successful he became, the worse it got. Success didn't calm him, it turned the volume up on everything. By the time he met Nicole in 2005, Keith had already been in and out of rehab. On stage, he was electric. Off stage, he was fighting demons nobody saw. He lived with the constant fear that addiction could wipe out his career, his relationships, his whole future. That broken edge was part of what drew Nicole in. She didn't just see a rock star, she saw a man trying to survive himself. She knew pain. He knew pain. And when their worlds collided, it felt like destiny, two damaged souls hoping to heal each other. But that same mix of passion and fragility would later become the cracks that broke everything apart. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying this, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. How Nicole and Keith Met, 2005. By the early 2000s, Nicole Kidman had rebuilt a lot after her brutal divorce from Tom Cruise. She'd won an Oscar for The Hours and stood tall as one of Hollywood's most respected actresses. Still, behind the trophies and magazine covers, she wanted something real, love, peace, and a second shot at family. Keith Urban, on the other hand, was rising fast in Nashville. His music was crossing over, his fame exploding, but sobriety was always hanging by a thread. Both of them were standing at major crossroads when fate finally stepped in. They first met at the G'day USA Gala in Los Angeles in January 2005, celebrating Australians who made it big in America. Nicole was glowing, elegant as ever. Keith was the quiet country guy everyone was starting to buzz about. When they were introduced, Nicole later admitted she wasn't sure he was into her. He was respectful but distant, took her number, and then didn't call for months. What could have ended right there turned into a slow burn. When Keith finally did reach out, everything clicked instantly. From there, things moved fast. By May, they were spotted together. By the end of the year, Nicole was openly saying he swept her off her feet. Keith was the total opposite of her past. Where Tom was controlled and polished, Keith was emotional, messy, and real. He wasn't perfect, and that might have been the point. To Nicole, he meant freedom. To Keith, She meant stability, class, and proof that he'd truly made it. By late 2005, it was obvious, to them and to the watching world, that this wasn't just a fling. It was two lives crashing together, two wounded souls convinced they'd finally found their second chance in each other. And by mid-2006, they were finally ready to lock it in for real. The wedding of the golden couple, 2006. If their first meeting felt like destiny doing its thing, their wedding straight up looked like a fairy tale flex. On June 25, 2006, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban tied the knot in a jaw-dropping ceremony at the Cardinal Soretti Memorial Chapel on Sydney's Manly Peninsula. The whole vibe was equal parts lavish and deeply personal, with Hollywood royalty, country music legends, and close family all showing up. Nicole rocked a Balenciaga gown with a dramatic veil, stepping into the church by candlelight like a movie scene. People there said she was fighting back tears as she walked down the aisle. Keith, rocking his signature long hair and guitar in hand, serenaded her at the reception, adding that extra romantic sauce that melted everyone's hearts. For the press, it was the ultimate storybook ending, Hollywood elegance colliding with country music grit. A perfect symbol of two totally different worlds coming together. The photos splashed across magazines worldwide pushed the narrative hard. Nicole had found a man who adored her unconditionally, and Keith had found redemption in the arms of one of the world's most admired actresses. The golden couple of Hollywood and Nashville had officially arrived. For fans, this wasn't just another celeb love story. It felt like proof that real love could win over pain, that two scarred souls could link up and heal each other. Nicole, after the heartbreak of losing her first marriage and the deep wound of being separated from her children, looked like she'd finally found peace. Keith, who had battled addiction and serious self-doubt, seemed to have found his anchor. But let's be real, fairy tales rarely last forever. Beneath the glow of candlelight and music, trouble was already low-key brewing. Just 4 months after the wedding, Keith checked himself into rehab for alcohol abuse. A brutal hit to their newlywed bliss, and the first public crack in their carefully crafted story. Still, in that moment, their wedding stood as a symbol of hope and fresh starts. Two stars, both shaped by struggle, promised to move forward together. The world believed in them, and maybe they believed in the fairy tale too. But reality has a habit of testing even the prettiest beginnings. Early cracks, rehab and struggles. Just 4 months after their dreamlike wedding, the cracks in Nicole and Keith's marriage showed up in a way no one could ignore. In October 2006, Keith voluntarily checked into rehab for alcohol abuse. For most couples, something like that so soon after vows would have been game over. For Nicole, it was a loyalty test, and she faced it head-on. The timing was almost savage. Nicole had barely wrapped up writing her wedding thank you notes when tabloids went wild. Overnight, their perfect golden couple image flipped into something way darker. Headlines painted Keith as a ticking time bomb and Nicole as a woman who'd married straight into chaos. But she wasn't about to let the world write her marriage script. She stood by him, visiting during treatment and shielding their private mess from becoming public entertainment. Keith later said Nicole straight up saved his life during that time, calling her unwavering support the anchor that kept him steady. For him, her presence wasn't just love, it was survival. Insiders, though, hinted at something deeper. Nicole hadn't been able to save her marriage with Tom Cruise, and now she threw herself into the healer role with Keith. It wasn't only about love, it was about proving to herself she could keep a family together this time. To the public, all they saw was strength. Fans found their story even more inspiring, proof that love could survive the toughest storms. Privately, though, a tricky pattern was forming. Nicole became the caretaker and protector, while Keith carried the weight of being the one who needed saving. For a while, it worked. But as time would show, that imbalance came with a price neither of them fully clocked yet. For now, they came out of the crisis looking stronger than ever, ready to take on the world together. And soon, life was about to throw even more at them: careers, kids, and the non-stop glare of fame. Career demands and family life. In the years after Keith's rehab stint, the couple hustled hard to regain their footing. On the outside, they looked unstoppable. Nicole kept owning Hollywood, jumping from big hits like Australia to more intimate roles like Rabbit Hole, which earned serious critical praise. Keith locked in his status as a country music heavyweight, stacking Grammys and selling out arenas worldwide. Publicly, their love story looked stronger than ever. In interviews, Keith often hyped Nicole with raw emotion, sometimes tearing up. Nicole called him the man who had brought her back to life. Their chemistry on red carpets screamed deep connection. But behind the polished image, fame was quietly doing damage. Distance was the first real enemy. Nicole filmed all over the globe, Keith lived on tour, and long stretches apart became unavoidable. They tried to set rules, like never being apart more than a few weeks, but insiders said their schedules clashed way more than they admitted. For Nicole, still scarred by being separated from her adopted children during her marriage to Tom Cruise, the fear of losing family time never left. When they welcomed their daughters, Sunday Rose in 2008 and Faith Margaret in 2010, Nicole dove headfirst into motherhood. She was determined not to repeat old mistakes and clung tightly to family stability. Keith loved his kids, no doubt, but the shift was tough. The wild rhythm of a touring musician didn't blend smoothly with fatherhood. Nicole leaned toward structure, Keith toward spontaneity, and that difference sometimes put them at odds. Still, in public, they played the role of Hollywood's anti-cynicism poster couple. Photos of Nicole holding the girls at airports while Keith handled the bags became iconic snapshots of teamwork. They showed unity, but insiders said the pressure of juggling fame, family, and old demons was slowly eating away at their foundation. What the world didn't see was that their marriage was turning into a non-stop negotiation: distance versus closeness, duty versus freedom, stability versus chaos. And while the world thought they were unbreakable, the seeds of future conflict were quietly being planted. Quick reminder: if this story's got you hooked, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Living the fairy tale in public, struggling in private. Through the late 2000s and into the 2010s, Nicole and Keith carefully built an image bigger than themselves. Red carpets, emotional speeches, family photos, it all painted them as Hollywood's rare example of lasting love. Interviewers framed them as proof marriages could survive fame, addiction, and distance. Nicole kept saying Keith brought her back to life, while Keith regularly broke down thanking her in award speeches. For fans, their love wasn't just inspiring, it was hope. But away from the cameras, another reality was playing out. The same traits that pulled them together were pushing them apart. Nicole, shaped by loss, wanted stability and structure. Keith, naturally restless, craved freedom and spontaneity. The tension wasn't explosive, it was quiet, constant, and slowly drained intimacy. Friends whispered that Nicole sometimes felt she carried the emotional weight of the marriage, while Keith hated always being seen as the one who needed saving. He admired her strength, but sometimes felt overshadowed by it. She loved his vulnerability, but feared it could undo everything. Their dynamic became a push and pull, one chasing peace, the other resisting control. Parenting made those differences louder. Nicole leaned into rules and routine, trying to shield their daughters from fame's chaos. Keith was the fun, laid-back parent. The girls adored both, but insiders said Nicole sometimes felt undermined, while Keith felt criticized. Still, the public saw none of it. Onstage, at premieres, in interviews, they stayed golden. Every smile and touch reinforced the image. But as history shows, fairy tales are easier to act out than live. And by the mid-2010s, those quiet cracks were getting harder to hide. Rumors and denials, 2015 to 2024. By the mid-2010s, rumors about Nicole and Keith popped up more often. Tabloids speculated about clashing schedules, Keith's nightlife, and Nicole's intensity. Anonymous sources hinted at arguments, and paparazzi shots sometimes showed Nicole at events without Keith, or Keith touring without his ring. The stories painted distance. Each time, the couple hit back with calm unity. Nicole told interviewers, "We've never been stronger." Keith echoed it, calling her his rock and the love of his life. On red carpets, they held hands tight, smiling like nothing was wrong. 4 years, it worked. Fans wanted to believe. But those close to them saw the effort behind the smiles. Friends said Nicole looked worn down at times, tired of always being the stabilizer, while Keith bristled at constantly being framed as the one who needed saving. Subtle shifts appeared. Nicole's smiles looked more practiced, Keith's emotional speeches more rehearsed. The love wasn't fake. It just took more work to keep the illusion alive. Despite the noise, they clung to the fairy tale. Every public gesture fed the myth. But behind closed doors, the struggle was louder, and keeping up appearances was exhausting. By 2023 and 2024, rumors peaked. Reports claimed they were living separate lives, and solo appearances only fueled it. Still, they insisted they were solid. But even the cleanest image can't last forever. And by 2025, the truth finally came out. The divorce, 2025. In September 2025, the rumors were officially confirmed. Nicole Kidman filed for divorce in Davidson County, Tennessee, ending nearly 20 years of marriage. The paperwork was simple, almost cold, citing only irreconcilable differences. But behind those words sat the weight of 2 decades of love, sacrifice, and silent struggle. According to People, Nicole and Keith had already been living separately even before the paperwork was filed, basically meaning the marriage had been over behind the scenes after 19 years together. For fans who always saw them as Hollywood's golden couple, this bombshell made the news hit even harder. It was proof the split had been slowly brewing long before it ever went public. People.com. For Nicole, making this call was straight up brutal. Reports said she spent months battling with the decision, stuck between her deep loyalty to her family and her need to protect her own mental and emotional health. Friends described her as shattered but firm, someone who finally realized she couldn't keep being both a partner and a caretaker. For years, she played the role of the stabilizer, the anchor keeping Keith steady. But eventually, she chose self-preservation instead of staying trapped in a cycle that completely drained her. The divorce filings also laid out the practical stuff. Nicole asked for primary residential custody of their daughters, Sunday Rose and Faith Margaret, while Keith retained joint decision-making authority. This setup reflected what many already suspected. Nicole's world revolved around the girls, while Keith's non-stop touring life made everyday parenting tough. Notably, both Nicole and Keith waived spousal and child support, signaling that their finances had always been kept separate and that neither was trying to cash in on the other's fortune. Still, even though the paperwork looked calm and calculated, the emotional aftermath was anything but quiet. The world collectively gasped when the news dropped. Fans who had held up their marriage as proof that real love could survive fame felt let down. Tabloids jumped in immediately, framing the breakup like a full-blown tragedy, Nicole as the woman who had finally hit her limit, Keith as the troubled artist undone by his inner demons. But while Nicole's filing was careful and restrained, Keith's reaction was anything but low-key. Just days later, he stepped onto a stage without his wedding ring, turning a concert into a raw, very public reckoning. And for the first time, his music said way more than any official statement ever could. Keith's on-stage confessions. Only days after the divorce news exploded, Keith Urban hit the stage in Pennsylvania for another stop on his High and Alive world tour. But this wasn't your typical country show. It turned into an unfiltered look at a man processing heartbreak in real time. From the second he appeared without his wedding ring, fans knew something was off. And yep, they were right. The moment that grabbed the most attention came during his 2004 breakup anthem You'll Think of Me. Normally, the lyric goes, "Take your space and take your reasons." But that night, he switched it up, singing, "Take your unreasonable reasons." Clips went viral almost instantly, with many people reading it as a direct jab at Nicole and the divorce. Even more telling were the changes to his set list. According to Yahoo Entertainment, Keith cut the fighter, a 2016 track widely believed to be inspired by Nicole, and one he'd often performed with her in mind. That omission, paired with the lyric change, sent fans into speculation mode, convinced Keith was actively rewriting his musical past to match the end of the marriage. TMZ also covered the show, pointing out that while Keith wasn't completely dropping songs, the way he curated the set list that night definitely got people talking. Some fans saw it as emotional release, others as straight-up bitterness, but everyone agreed on one thing: this was not just another concert. And yet, mixed in with the anger were softer moments. During Heart Like a Hometown, photos of Keith with his daughters flashed across the screen, a reminder that family was still at the heart of his story, even as his marriage fell apart. For the crowd, the night felt like more than a performance. It was part confession, part therapy session, and part cultural moment. Every lyric tweak and setlist choice was picked apart online, reinforcing the idea that Keith's music had become his loudest and most revealing statement. Nicole's quiet response. While Keith worked through the divorce under stadium lights, Nicole Kidman took the opposite route. Instead of lyric changes and public emotion, she let silence and subtle moves do the talking. Just weeks after filing, Nicole showed up at a film festival without her wedding ring. Her outfit was flawless, her posture graceful, but there was a quiet sadness in her expression that elegance alone couldn't mask. This was Nicole's style of dealing with heartbreak: no explosions, just composure. Her attention immediately shifted to her daughters, Sunday Rose and Faith Margaret. Paparazzi caught her walking hand in hand with them through Nashville, her protective body language screaming where her priorities were. Friends said she retreated into family life, determined not to let the chaos of the divorce shake her daughter's sense of stability. For Nicole, this chapter echoed old pain. Years earlier, her divorce from Tom Cruise had resulted in her becoming estranged from her adopted children, Isabella and Connor, a wound that never fully healed. This time, she refused to let history repeat itself. Reports tied to the filings suggested she pushed for primary custody of Sunday and Faith to keep their lives as stable as possible as the marriage ended. Professionally, Nicole leaned back into what she could control: her work. She kept showing up at industry events with the same professionalism she's known for, her career continuing to thrive even as her personal life shifted. The contrast between her calm public presence and Keith's emotional on-stage moments only highlighted how differently they processed loss. Nicole's silence became powerful in its own way. Where Keith's music shouted, her calm presence whispered resilience. She didn't need to rewrite lyrics or issue public statements. Her message was clear: she was moving forward, not with resentment, but with focus on her daughters, her career, and her own peace. And honestly, that quiet strength may have spoken louder than any song ever could. The final word. At the end of the day, the story of Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban isn't just about a marriage ending, it's about what that ending revealed. For nearly 20 years, they carried the pressure of being Hollywood and Nashville's golden couple, a symbol that love could survive fame, distance, and addiction. For a long time, it really did look like they'd pulled it off. But behind the smiles and red carpet moments were two people shaped by old wounds, trying to heal each other while still carrying their own scars. Nicole, deeply affected by losing her children in her first marriage, craved stability. Keith, weighed down by addiction and restlessness, craved freedom. Their love was genuine, but so were their contradictions, and over time, those contradictions became impossible to ignore. The divorce papers might have used the phrase irreconcilable differences, but the truth was way more layered. It wasn't one scandal or one massive fight that ended them. It was years of imbalance, sacrifice, and quiet compromises that finally hit a breaking point. What makes their story hit so hard isn't just the breakup, it's how differently they faced it. Keith turned his heartbreak into performance, pouring raw emotion into his music and letting the world watch him unravel. Nicole, on the other hand, answered with quiet strength, centering her daughters and moving forward with dignity. For fans, the end of their marriage was bittersweet. It shattered the fantasy of the perfect love story, but it also reminded everyone that even the brightest stars are still human. Beneath the glamour, they struggle with the same stuff we all do: love, loss, and the hunt for balance. And maybe the real takeaway lives in something Nicole once said: it's not about perfection. It's about showing up, again and again. For nearly 20 years, she and Keith did exactly that. But sometimes, showing up just isn't enough. Sometimes, even the greatest love stories don't end with a fairy tale, they end with the quiet realization that love, no matter how deep, isn't always enough to last forever. So, what do you think about their story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you liked this video, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell so you never miss our next deep dive.